the idea of not being defined by terrible circumstances. You hear so many people talk about it. You hear life coaches talk about it. You hear Ivana Van Zandt. You hear T.D. Jakes. You hear so many people talk about you're not defined by your circumstance. I'm going to personally tell you a little bit of my story. And so I have been divorced now going on 4 years, separated 5. And there were many things that happened to me in that span of time, and many things that I had to come to terms with about myself, um, and within that time. And rather than getting into the nitty gritty of all of the terrible things that have happened to me, went through a terrible time of particularly those within the body of Christ, the church, because when you're a divorced woman, you have the big D word on your head, and so the assumption is that you are an adulteress, or you did this, or you did that. And it really affected me, it impacted me on an emotional level that I cannot even explain how much that hurt me. Because when people who say that they're spiritual end up becoming self-righteous and end up wounding you more than helping you, that actually skews your belief system. It actually rocked my foundation in what I believed about myself, what I believed about God, what I believed about other people. And I went through some really awful things that have now turned into a blessing, because now I am in the process of getting a nonprofit organization called Black Rose Movement on its way. And the idea of the movement is to empower and inspire, number one, people who have felt marginalized by various organizations or the system, whether it be the school system or organizations, and they feel like their voice is not being heard, feeling mistreated because of the color of their skin, because of socioeconomic class, because they're a woman. They feel that they're just not being heard. And unfortunately, we do live in a society that judges people based on how much money you have, that judges people based on the color of skin, that judges people based on how intelligent that you appear to be. And so the idea of this organization came from a song that I wrote called Black Rose. And I wrote the song based on my own experience in racial profiling and violence since being a single woman and rebuilding my life from literally being working class to poor overnight. In the beginning, it was a sob story. In the beginning, I was angry. In the beginning, I was all these various things. I now realize that it has been the biggest blessing. All of the terrible situation, all of the marginalization, all of the mean comments, all of the rejection, all of the family members that had all kinds of garbage to say, all of it. Because what that essentially did for me was it purged all the superficial out of my life. I was able to see who was really for me and who really wasn't. I was able to see how strong I really am. And I was able to come to terms with the choices that I was making. Okay? And the pattern that I was making in making the wrong choices in relationships. And the fact that I had to discover my own self-esteem, and I had to take accountability for casting pearls to swine. That's just the bottom line. Okay? I said this to a friend a few years ago. The difference between being called and chosen is choice. Nobody puts a gun to your head and tells you who to walk down the aisle with. Nobody puts a gun to your head and tells you what food to put into your mouth. Nobody puts a gun to your head and tells you what to do. Essentially, every single day you have the choice to choose what you're going to say, what you're going to think, what you're going to listen to, how you're going to communicate, who you are to the rest of the world. That is your choice. Now, how people respond to that may be negative. Okay, I've had people say awful things about me. I've had people accuse me. I'm apparently paranoid. I apparently have psychosis. I'm apparently crazy. I'm apparently all kinds of things. And I'm apparently not the demographic. And those things were very, very, very painful. And I'm not going to lie, I was very angry. And anger is a natural response to a boundary being overstepped. It's natural to be angry. Nothing wrong with being angry. The question, though, is how long do you stay in that anger? How long do you remain the victim? How long do you recite all of the terrible, awful things that have happened to you? How long do you remain in the pit? And so there was a point where I walked into the YMCA Mary Street. I remember sitting here thinking, Cora, what are the things that you want to do? Because now you have the choice. You can decide what you want to do for the rest of your life. There's nobody telling you what to do. There's nobody dictating your life. You decide. So what are you going to choose to do? The first thing I thought, okay, what are the things that I love? I love fitness because I've lost over now, now at 120 pounds. Fluctuated up and down, but now say 120 pounds within the past 4 years. Love fitness. Love music. Love speaking. Love inspiring and empowering other people. So I decided the first thing I needed to do, that if I was going to be a coach of any kind, that I needed to get this together. What that meant is I had to get my mind in check. So was it through counseling? Maybe, maybe not. I did my own research on cognitive behavior therapy. I pulled up a lot of Louise Hay, a lot of how you rewire and change your thoughts. I read a lot of the Bible. I decided that I was not going to have media influence me. I decided I was not going to have negative friends anymore. I decided I was not going to listen to negative comments. I decided to cut off certain relationships that were no longer serving the purpose of building me. I decided I was not going to be a part of an organization that did not support and treat everyone fairly. And I decided that I was going to make the decisions on the friendships, relationships, people, music, food, that all of that was my choice. God gave me the huge blessing of choice. And that I was going to either choose to allow these organizations to minimize who I am, and sit and cry about the accusations. Oh, they're saying all this about me. Or get off of my rear end, get up and say, no, I'm not going to let you define me. I'm not going to let you tell me what I am and who I am. I'm going to get up and do what God has gifted me to do. And that is to be the artist, to be the mother, and to be the entrepreneur that I'm called to be. Simple. And that's essentially what I've done. And I also chose that I was not going to be defined by how much money I made,